It's now time for the Wedcast, brought to you by Film Media Wedding Videography, 3-time Wedding Industry Award regional finalist. Here is your host, James. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 6 of the Wedcast. And on today's show, we have got ourselves a singer. So yeah, we have had a DJ, but this is a singer. So today I present to you Mr. Barney Holmes. He's going to be coming on the show. He's going to be talking to us all about what it's like being a wedding singer. I know what you're thinking, Adam Sandler in the film The Wedding Singer, but these are questions I need to ask him. I need to find out what life is like as a wedding singer, how he started as a wedding singer, and all his way leading up to where he is now. So lots of questions to ask him. Obviously, Leo will be here again, as he normally is, with a question. It could be anything from Leo. So yeah, look out for that one. That's coming later on in the show. So yeah, let's get straight to the interview today. Let's have a little chat. Let's see what Barney's got to say for us, and we'll go from there. So here we go, guys. Enjoy the show. Hi, Barney, and thanks for coming on. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, thanks. It's great to hear from you and just basically see how you're getting on with the upcoming wedding season. How are we looking so far? I imagine you're really busy now getting things prepared for the upcoming season.
Well, that's the thing. Each year it gets crazy, and then January, February, you feel like you've got a little bit of respite, and then as soon as you've sat down, suddenly it's March. You know what I mean? It feels like it's March already. But yeah, it's starting to kind of pick up again. I'm doing a lot of bars and venues in between, ready for the wedding season to happen. But you know exactly what it's like. It's always a little bit crazy, this kind of moment after the January kind of quiet phase, you know what I mean?
Are you mainly based in Norwich?
Yeah. I mean, I travel around wherever the work is, really. The furthest I've been is Sri Lanka. Did some weddings over there.
Wow.
Sardinia, Lake Como, Tuscany, Morzine, Austria. I mean, I travelled the world, luckily, with this job, which has been really, 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 really fun, to be honest. But yeah, mainly around Norfolk. Quite a change from, Sri Lanka and stuff like that. But I do like around this area. It's quite nice, you know. I
agree, and as I've said to previous guests on the show, we're very spoiled with the wedding venues we actually have in Norfolk. So there's some absolutely beautiful locations. Obviously, maybe not on the same level as some of the ones in Sri Lanka, but Norfolk is
Do you know what? It's very hot over there. I mean, obviously, but it got quite funny because when I finished the gig, I was so drenched in this tropical, heat.
Yeah.
I ended up having to borrow like a tracksuit from the groom because I was just sweating through my suits and my shirts. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
But here in Norwich, it isn't so bad. You stick on the air conditioning, you're all right.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, you say that we do have some warm summers over here. So yeah, we've got to take that.
Yeah.
So how did you first get into singing? Is this something that you've always done since you were young?
Yeah. I mean, I used to go to church every Sunday. I was one of 9. In my family, so Sunday school was a big thing. I used to sing in choirs for years and years, and when I got to like 12, 13 years old, I started playing guitar, and I joined many different bands after that, and I just kept singing. Basically, I ended up kind of doing some support slots for some well-known names like Ed Sheeran and Ben Howard.
Wow.
Also some other names as well, like in the rock scene, like Mallory Knox the First, Def Havana, Don Broco, things like that. And then as time went on, I did The Voice as part of like a hip-hop funk duo called Divide.
Right.
And did the X Factor as well, got to boot camp, which was really cool. And then ever since then, somehow it's just become my career. So, I mean, this was like 10 years ago, so I should probably stop using that as my experience, but it's got me this far. Do you know what I mean? So
I think I
can't complain. It gives you a good bit of exposure, and then since then I kind of unfortunately things didn't really work out with Divide, like we divided in the end. And
fun, yeah.
Now, so now I just do my own thing, just kind of playing whatever people want, basically. Genres including R&B, funk, soul, rock and roll, blues. I do like a metal set. I do like a cheese set, a garage set. Pretty much everything that you want, I do. But I mean, that's all come from all the different experiences of different bands that I've been in over the years. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain. Some people always ask me, oh, how are you going to be able to get a party going on your own? And I'm like, well, you have to see it to believe it. Because, when I've got there with the bass pedal and I'm doing what I can with the guitar and the vocals and all mix it together, it becomes like a whole band thing. But it's just me on my own, really. But no loop pedals. I think that's a bit of a cheating move, having loop pedals. Although I know a lot of people that are really good with them. Some people that are amazing with them. But to be honest, I don't have the patience to learn. I'm just quite lazy. I'm like, right, this is what you're going to get right here, right now. No faffing about. But yeah.
So would you say that you change up your style, or do you say you have like a baseline style that you normally go, and then obviously you add to that over time? Is that how you probably do it?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think luckily with what I do, I can sit in the background and do nice chilled out music if people want that, for 2-3 hours. That's absolutely fine. Or I can do a party set where I bring out a bit of gruff in my vocal and push it quite hard, and lots of rhythm, lots of bass pedal, smashing out a little bit of Nirvana or Disturbed or Slipknot or whatever.
Oh, nice.
And suddenly you're doing a little bit of Elvis Presley, and then doing some Ed Sheeran, and then doing some Johnny Cash, and you're doing some Usher or some Childish Gambino. There's so many different things that I like to incorporate together, which makes it so much more interesting,
and diverse as well, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. It's sorry, I'm talking over you. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, it's good to hear what you've got to say. I'm interested.
It's well, I mean, most of the gigs that I do, it's never the same kind of caliber of people. It's always different age groups, different experiences. Very much what you'd expect at a wedding. Yeah. So I'll set myself a task to try and please everybody in the room, which does mean ducking and diving in songs that you wouldn't necessarily play. Things like Barbie Girl and Spice Girls.
Really? Oh, wow, yeah.
Or Cher. And then you go from from that to Bon Jovi to, like I said, like Ed Sheeran. Maybe a little bit of Snoop Dogg, or a little bit of Notorious B.I.G., or a little bit of, Tool or something. You go from different extremes. If people want that, of course. A lot of the time I'll get brides and groups to tell me what they don't want to hear rather than what they do want to hear, so that I know what to avoid. Then everything else is fair game. Some of the mashups that I've done in the past, when I was a bit more young.
A bit more young, yep.
when I was a bit more young. Sorry, I'm sounding proper Norfolk, didn't it?
Yep.
I would sometimes do mashups for like 2-3 hours non-stop, just from one song to the other, because you lose track of time and adrenaline kicks in, and just before you know it, it's midnight and you've been singing for about 3 hours.
Wow.
But as I've got older, I've kind of shortened those into like 45-minute stints of mashups.
Have some sets, and then you can go and have a drink then in between, which is quite good.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get into weddings? What got you to the point where you thought, well, I'm going to try some weddings?
Well, I was always a songwriter, to be honest, and I realised that there was so much work available if I learned covers. So I started, just singing the songs that I knew when I was younger and just bringing those up rather than learning new songs. And after a while, people just kept, people were asking me, can you do the first dance? Can you do this? And it kind of went from there. I also teamed up with Platinum Sound as well, with Adam Colton, who's a bit of a legend.
Yeah, I know Adam. Funny fact about Adam, just very quickly, just while we're talking about Adam, I actually went to college with him, which is a small world.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it's a small world. I know Adam. He's a good friend. So yeah, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, no, he's a very, very good man. And I actually went to a pub to pick up some equipment, I think, and he was there having a meeting with some of the other artists that he works with. And then he just said, oh, why don't you just, do some work for me? So we did like the EDP wedding fairs and stuff, and with Diana, of course, and did lots of little bits together. And things kind of just went from there. It just kind of like a domino effect. More and more bookers kept coming up. And then I was trying to squeeze in the other pubs and club gigs in between. And it's just been, it's been insane.
It's like you're always on tour throughout the year. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, I get really caught up in the excitement of it all. So you end up drinking too much, and so I have to kind of.
You have to rein it a bit.
It's like rooms time. Have like a little kind of, as I said, like a respite away from all that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then within 5 minutes you're back at it again.
Yeah. So weddings, then, obviously they're an interesting place to work. Obviously, a videographer myself, you see and you hear it all at weddings. How would a wedding crowd, okay, so a wedding reception evening be compared to, I don't know, a Saturday night in a pub in Norwich? What would be the difference there?
Oh, that's a very good question. Um, well, at a wedding, everybody's on like a high. Everybody's on like a positive note.
Yeah.
Never been to a wedding where it's been, negative or sad or anything like that. But when you do a club, often when I do certain gigs at like midnight until 2 a.m. sometimes, everyone's smashed in a quote unquote state, know. So they're falling over my equipment, spilling drinks everywhere, shouting songs in my face while I'm trying to perform. I mean, most people get annoyed by that, and sometimes I do get annoyed, but often I find it hilarious because I could play anything and they'd be satisfied. But with weddings, there's a bit more pressure because it's their most special day,
Absolutely.
And there's a certain responsibility. So I'm a lot more professional with my sound at a wedding because I want to give what the bride and groom expect, but then still be loose enough to have a good time with them as well and create something a little bit more different. A little bit different. Not a little bit more different? Different.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Next question.
Oh dear. How's the pressure then, like, performing someone's first dance? Because I must think that must be quite, this is their moment. How do you find that?
I used to love it. I still do. But what I used to make the mistake of doing was that I used to tell too many people that I would do the first dance, and then I'd give myself no time to learn the songs. So I really had to be a bit more selective with what songs I could and couldn't do, and not being scared to have the DJ, who was often, Adam Colton or a few other people that I work with. They have the song on standby and they'll play it just in case. Because sometimes the adrenaline can work both ways. It can either make the performance really good, or you can overthink it and the song completely just gets lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's hard to explain. So, I pride myself on practicing the songs and getting them right, but trying to find that sweet spot where you're not taking too many first dances within a short amount of time. A lot of singers try to wing it, but I'm always quite uncomfortable with that because I want the song to sound at least as similar to it as possible. But there have been occasions where I've tried to wing it, or been occasions where I've tried to do too many, and then it hasn't worked out the way that I'd wanted it to. I mean, the brides and grooms have been absolutely fine with it, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'm like my own worst enemy. Like, I did a gig, maybe like 8 years ago, and it was like the first dance I ever did, and it was These Arms of Mine by Otis Redding.
Yeah, oh wow, okay, you really even remember the song.
It's a beautiful song, but then there's a bit at the end where he kind of goes off and like freestyles his vocal.
Right.
And he got to it, and I was like, what the hell key was that bit in? And I kind of just completely, I winged it. I wung it.
You wung it,
I don't know.
Yeah, you winged it, yeah.
I winged it. So was that? I can't speak, apparently. I just sing. My grammar is not great, but I just sing.
You're fine, mate. I get what you're saying.
I thought I'd just blag it,
Yeah.
And I thought it was awful. I was like, oh no, this is really bad. This is terrible. And then after the first dance, the bride and groom, they walked up to me and they were crying. Said, oh, that was the best version we've ever heard. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I was such a perfectionist and so lost in the moment. And I was so disappointed with how, to me, it sounded, that I didn't realise that actually no one's looking at a textbook answer here. It's like people want to hear a different version of it.
Yep.
And they absolutely loved it. So, I mean, I do love the experience of doing the first dance, and it almost feels like you just started because the pressure was on you. I mean, when you're doing a gig in a club or a venue or doing the after reception, everyone's too busy talking amongst themselves, having a good time. No one's paying attention to what I'm actually doing. But when that first dance happens,
all eyes are on you. All eyes and all ears are on you. Yep.
And it's amazing, but it's scary as well at the same time.
Yeah.
But I do love it. You get like a big rush at the end,
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Well, it's a magical moment, isn't it? And I get the same pressure. Obviously, I'm not singing and performing like you, but I get that same pressure. You get one go at filming this moment, and
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
you can look around that room, and you've probably seen it before. And sometimes you can feel that emotion, and it hits you in the face, like tears and all sorts of joy. And there's all sorts of emotions in that room. So it's about putting what you can do out there to add to that moment. So yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah, exactly.
So for weddings, then I've actually got quite a lot of questions to ask here. So when it comes to weddings, how can a couple hear you before they book you? Where can they find you? I mean, obviously, I guess you're online, but do you recommend they come down and see you at a gig if they've heard of you, or do you get a lot of your work from recommendations from other weddings? How does it work for you?
Bit of everything, really. I always recommend them to come and see me live.
Right.
Because, when you go online and stuff like that, it's like, listening to someone online is like looking at a black and white photo or a black and white drawing or whatever. There's no colour or context. When you go and see them live, you hear all the different sounds, the decibels of the tones, the dimension of the music, the sound, the performance, the reaction of the audience. You know how sound is usually construed into a very simple format when you listen to it online.
Yeah.
And you only get a certain, like I said, you only get the line drawing of the painting. You don't get the full painting. And I'm a big believer in experiencing the real live essence. And then you can make a decision on what you want. I've always given myself a hard time because I don't put a lot of stuff online. But it's like, how do I put it?
I get what you're saying. I get it. It's
like detrimental to the quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's always best to kind of get them to, like you said, you like to meet the clients before you work with them and give them an idea of who you are, because that's an essence of the work itself. And I guess live performances is the same thing.
So if I was a bride and groom and I wanted to get in touch with you about a wedding, so I come on and go, "Hi Barney, are you free for my date?" Was that the point where you turn around and go, "Hi, so-and-so, thanks for getting in touch. Come down and see me at this gig, and you can see how I do things." Is that
yeah? I mean, most people that ask me to play at their wedding or events or whatever, they've seen me before, and that's where the idea comes from. So luckily, they've already passed that hurdle already. It's just a case of making sure that they book a day and a time that I'm available. Because sometimes it gets a little bit intense, especially on Saturdays, of course.
Absolutely. So you mentioned previously, you said that you have been to wedding fairs. Is that something you still do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've been there's too many to name, but yeah, I've done a lot of them. You've probably been to the same ones, to be honest.
Yeah, and so I guess you're there throughout the day, you perform, so like brides and grooms can actually hear you perform?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, big shout out to Adam Colton from Platinum Sounds, because he booked me for a few times at the EDP wedding fair back in the day, and we used to do the catwalk. So I'd end up just doing my mash-up, like a 10-minute mash-up for a bit while the brides and grooms come in and have a little listen. And I'd get so much work that way.
This is the Norfolk Showground, the big one.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the big one. Such a rush going to those ones. It's really, really good.
I'm going to quickly move on to venues now, because this is a question that I asked Paul Allen when he was on a couple of weeks ago. In regards to limiters in venues, how do you cope with that?
I'm all right generally, because I'm not a full band.
Yeah.
I mean, I always find it's the volume of the audience that makes the limiter go off, rather than me.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, all the clapping and singing along. But they've been absolutely fine. I mean, there's been a few occasions where they would keep cutting off, and that was a bit irritating. But I've never had any complaints or anything, luckily.
Well, that's good. I mean, what I always say to couples as well is that's a question, though, that's definitely worth asking the venue, would you say? I mean, not just for yourself, but obviously if they've got a band or a DJ, asking about the limiters, because a lot of couples don't know about it, and I think it's an important part, especially if you've got a live act, as I said, or a DJ as well. It doesn't ruin the evening, but it can interrupt it.
Yes, it can, 100%. I always find there's a reason for it, though. I mean, there's certain wedding venues at the moment that have had a few problems because of neighbours and lots of housing nearby. You know, there's people living their lives, and if you're going to have weddings every, 2 or 3 times a week, it can get much for the locals around the area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the limiter is a real problem, then I think it's best for the bride and groom to second guess and have another little think about what venue they want to go to. Maybe one that isn't quite as busy when it comes to locality of other, of the local population, and that way you can be a bit more loose with it all.
I agree. It's just a bit of food for thought, really. So if I was to book you for my wedding, are you mainly for the evening, or can you work through the day as well? How does it normally work for you?
Yeah, I'm completely versatile, so I can do the walk down the aisle, keep the guests busy while they're doing the photos and stuff, providing background music for the meal, and then I smash out a good 2-hour, 3-hour set in the evening, which will be of nothing but bangers and everybody dancing on the dance floor. So it's complete extremes across the board. And I've always tried to, I've always prided myself on being able to do everything, because it makes it more interesting as well. Because if you're doing the same thing all the time, it gets very boring.
Exactly. Do you when you talk to your bride and grooms beforehand, do they often ask you if they can produce you a set list?
If they give me a big old list of songs, they go, "Oh, is that all right?" I kind of laugh to myself, because what you're doing is you're dictating the art. You should let the artist choose, really, because you chose that artist for a reason in the first place.
Yeah.
Best thing to do is just, like I said before, as long as they tell me what they don't want to hear, and then that'll be enough, because I literally play everything across the board, from Madonna, Kylie Minogue to Elvis Presley to pretty much everything else, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they have specific songs that they do want to hear, of course, I'm more than happy to add it to the set. But I usually let the music and the feel of the evening dictate where the sound goes.
I mean, do they ever sort of say to you, well, we want, I don't know, just say they wanted a song by Madonna that you didn't know, and they really wanted it, it's a really important thing. Would that be something you'd be prepared to learn leading up to their day?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm more than happy to learn songs before the big day. I mean, there aren't many songs that I don't know already. But the only problem is that there's probably about 3 or 4 artists that I namely don't know the songs of. One of them being Rod Stewart, another one being Stone Roses, and the other one being Sam Fender.
Okay.
Oh, and Jerry Cinnamon. I mean, those 4 acts I get asked loads, and I never know what they are. I never
You never know.
I mean, one day I'll learn one of each of those artists, and then it will never be a problem ever again. But I get so busy that I just kind of go with what I've got, and I've got about 10 hours, 11 hours worth of music that I can perform.
Wow.
So there's plenty to choose from anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So when you turn up to a wedding, then this is going to sound a bit of a random question. Do you come dressed smartly? How do you dress? Is it like a suit, or what's your kind of look that you go for?
That's a very good question. I used to get a lot of trouble from Adam, so I turn up sometimes in just my normal attire. But the problem is, when I'm so busy and when I'm really performing, I get really sweaty. And the thing is, if I keep on the same clothes throughout the day, I'm going to start stinking. And you can imagine how much the laundry builds up over 1 week.
Have you got any sort of standout moments at weddings that you look back on and think that was the pinnacle of a wedding? Is there any moments that you look back and think this is it? This is I've made it here. Do you know what I mean?
I think my favourite thing for a wedding is the walk up and down the aisle. 1, because you have to sing half as long, and 2, you can you get a really nice feel for the guests and seeing the bride and groom meeting for the first time and being a part of that moment that everyone's there for.
Yeah,
it's one of the most fulfilling things. And it's hard to single out any, to be honest. I mean, there's plenty of walks down the aisle down at Southwood Hall, for instance, where it's been amazing. You've got like the cows in the background, and you've got like the beautiful summer's day, and it's hitting you, and you're just there playing a bit of music, and you become a part of this. Even though you don't know anyone, they're all strangers to me, but that feeling of being a part of that special moment, it doesn't get any better than that, really.
I agree. and by the end of the night you do know them because you've seen them all night, and it's
Oh yeah, 100%. You feel like a part of the family, you know.
it's such a special occasion to be part of, and I feel like, I know this sounds totally cheesy, but I feel quite honoured to be part of someone's big day. You know, that's personally for me, and you must feel the same. So if you're coming to the evening, then how long time would you say you need to get set up, and how? I mean, do you give yourself much time to get everything? I guess you bring a big van with all your kit. How does it work?
It takes about 5 minutes to set up. I turn up, plug everything in, and then wait until the gig starts, and then just go from there. But when I start, especially in the evening sets, when I start, it flies by because I'm swinging through so many different songs. By the time it gets to like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, people are like, it's been 3 hours already. You know, people always mention that to me, how quickly time goes. And I mean, it's just a quick setup, smashing the gig out, having the best time in the world, and then literally pack down and go home. It's just, really simple and really easy. Especially with being a solo artist, it's so much easier than getting in a band, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, here's a question that I asked Paul, obviously the DJ who was on a few weeks ago. This is an interesting one. I mean, because he told me what he does, but how do you combat like an annoying photographer or videographer like myself, who you've done that first dance, you've got everyone on the dance floor, and then they go, let's go outside and do some sparklers. How do you combat getting everyone back on?
When they do that, I'm like, oh, it's a nice little break now. I just kind of enjoy the easygoingness of just them doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it all depends how much they've drank. If they've drank a lot, it's easy to get them back on in 5 seconds. Boom, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
But if it's a predominantly sober audience, it takes a bit more time. You've got to coax them in. You've got to play a few mid-range songs with a bit, mid-tempo, and then when you've got them, you can start smashing out the high-energy stuff, and then everybody's going to be on the dance floor. Okay. I've never had a real problem with it really, unless they've put me on and it's still daylight, and sometimes the daylight can be a killer of the dance,
especially in them summer months.
Yeah, exactly.
It's do you ever find that people are embarrassed going on the dance floor? Do you ever find like a bride and groom who don't want to go on, or do you usually find they get on?
People that don't want to be on the dance floor is usually because they're sober.
Yeah, get the drinks in. Yeah.
I think there's a certain level of I mean, in England, I think we're all quite, I wouldn't say the word uptight, I wouldn't say that, but close. We've all got quite stressful lives, we've got the whole, we've got one crisis after the other, and you're getting squeezed for this and squeezed for that. It's hard to...
All a bit reserved.
It's hard to release your inhibitions and enjoy the moment, because everyone's worrying about this and worrying about that. I don't know if it's human nature, but I mean, when I've been to like Italy and other places in the world, people aren't like that. People dance anyway, but I think in England it takes a little bit more persuasion of the alcohol variety to really get you in the mood. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. I mean, there's some people that just go on the dance floor anyway, and I what's the word? I admire those people because they've got balls,
Yeah, no, I get that, and to be honest with you, I get what you're saying. I'm not a big dancer myself. However, maybe a couple of pints in, you might see me up there. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them things.
Yeah, you know what I mean. There's nothing wrong with that. It just gives that little nudge,
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to hand you over to Leo now, and as I say each week, Leo is my son. He comes on every week to ask a supplier a question, and he's got one for you, Barney. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to him now, and we'll go from there if that's okay.
No worries.
What's your favourite genre?
Great question, Leo. I would say heavy rock. A bit of like Bon Jovi, a little bit of, maybe a little bit acoustic rock as well, that kind of vibe. But then that's my favourite like music to listen to. My favourite music to perform would be like R&B and garage.
R&B and garage.
So bit of an opposite spectrum of musical genres there. So that's a great question.
Do you have this is a question for myself now. Thanks, Leo, for that, by the way. That is a good question.
Yeah, great question. That was,
do you have a favourite artist that you like to listen to?
See, when people ask me this, I'm like, right, how long have you got? I love John Mayer. I love Ed Sheeran. I love Maynard James Keenan as well. from Tool. Oh, sorry, his name's a bit of a mouthful. Maynard James Keenan from A Perfect Circle, and Tool's one of my favourite singers as well. Obviously, like Celine Dion's brilliant, Whitney Houston, but they're all for different reasons.
Yeah.
My favourite song to sing on top of everything would be like My Girl, which is technically Motown.
Temptations.
But then at the same time, if I'm going to listen to certain songs, it would be, oh gosh. If I had to choose a favourite singer, do you know what? I don't think I could choose,
Really?
I really don't, because I love like Phil Collins. I literally like everything. It's really, really tough because my musical taste is so broad.
Do you find that you listen to music, I don't know, on Spotify or on the radio or whatever on the way to a gig, and that kind of influences what you're going to play that night?
Not really.
No.
No, I literally, like, I don't have a set list in mind. I just turn up and I'm like, right, at this point, this music would go down well. All right, we're at this stage now. Okay, we're now on the accelerator. I'll play a bit of Stevie Wonder.
I love that. I love the idea how in your mind it's kind of like you go in from like 10 up to like 50 over. Do you know what I mean? You've got your foot on the pedal, you get going, and I love that. And then the party goes up from there. I think that's a great way to do it.
Like honestly, I see it as like 2 points in time. You've got the beginning of the gig and then the end, and in between it's just completely unpredictable. It all depends on how the audience is feeling, the flow of the music at the time. If things kind of fall nicely in place, you lose track of time, and suddenly it's the end. You know what I mean? It's a strange. It's a strange kind of lapse of time, as it were.
Yeah. So, Barney, where can I find you online? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Insta, TikTok? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm on all that jazz. You can find me on Facebook. It's put Barney Holmes, Barney Holmes Music, and it's the same on Instagram as well. So BarnyHolmes, followed by the word music. You can also find my website on barneyholmes.co.uk. Just put in Barney Holmes. You'll see my ugly mug all over the place. Can't get rid of me.
What are you like on social media? Are you good? Good with it?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, during lockdown, I was a lot more active. I was quite lucky, really, because I was staying up late on live streams, going on Dan Sprague's Instagram live streams. I was on Fleur East's as well, Wanya Morris from Boys to Men. And I was spending a lot of time just kind of sitting there and talking with a lot of celebrities as well, just basically just sitting there and waiting for them to go live and then getting my fans to spam my name in the comments and then eventually get me on there to perform for them.
Oh, wow. How was that?
And that was a mad buzz. It was crazy. It was like, I felt like I really got the appreciation that I thought I deserved. But then once lockdown was over, I had to go back to reality, to doing gigs again, and I was getting too tired to do the live streams and stuff. I plan to try and do a bit of both. That's the plan for 2023, but we'll see how it goes. I've just got to get off my arse and just be a bit more proactive, because I think when you do so many gigs throughout the year, your body can only cope with so much. It's easy to become lazy between shows,
How do you find, does it affect your throat or your voice performing so much?
No, for some reason it's just, it's always held its own. There's been times where I felt it nearly going, but somehow it always seems to recover. I don't know if that's like a superpower or whatever, I don't know.
Superpower. Do you, when you just quickly going back very quickly to when you first started, did you, so you said you were in a choir? Is that what you said at the beginning? I think you did.
Yeah, when I was a kid, when I was very young, I used to sing a lot of choir services and things.
Did you have like vocal practice, like singing lessons, to get to that point?
No, you just you just had to sing every Sunday, and I think what I didn't realise was that it kind of did warm up and train my voice to work a certain way. So I can, at 34 years old, I can still sing those high falsetto notes, but then sing the very low notes as well, and do a bit in between. So I'd move from like soprano to tenor or alto or whatever, depending on whatever people wanted, and somehow it just stuck with me.
Brilliant. Well, that's brilliant. Well, I wish you all the best for this year, this season, and it's been an absolute joy to talk to you.
100%. I hope it was a good interview. I'm quite sporadic.
No, I like
it. As you noticed.
I liked it, mate, because obviously you go here, there, and everywhere, and that's what I like, because it gives this show variety. And what my main purpose is, I say this every week, my main purpose is if I can get these brilliant suppliers like yourself just just a couple who are in the early stages, and they can hear all these amazing suppliers like yourself, like Ed, like Paul, all these people. It gives them something to listen to and something for them to think, actually, that would be perfect at my wedding. Barney would be amazing at my wedding. And not just that, it's a nice thing to do. And that's why I do it.
Yeah, 100%. You're doing a great thing. And just keep it up, mate. And absolutely, we'll grab a pint at the next wedding show.
Absolutely, let's do it. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Barney, for coming on. And, all the best.
And you too, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Take care, mate. Speak soon.
Take care, broski.
So that's it, guys, for this week's show. That's episode 6 wrapped up. Obviously, episode 7 is next week. So we go Monday, Tuesday, Wedcast, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. See what I did there? Wednesday's now Wedcast day. So, as normal, guys, I'm not going to tell you who's coming, but you'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be a good one. So episode 7 next week. I'm aiming for 10. That's the goal. On the 10th episode, I might have something a little bit different. So, maybe not a supplier. So, that's all I'm saying. Speak soon, guys. Much love. Have a fantastic week. Wrap up warm, as I said last week. It is February. It is cold. And, bring on the summer wedding season. See you later, guys.